Hey, this is Patrick from Anedot. Welcome to Anedot Learn, where you help you grow your organization through giving. Today, we're joined by Kennedy Williams, our own customer support manager here at Anedot. She'll be talking about how we handle support here at Anedot and how that might be helpful to you as you're looking to support your donors and do other kind of support initiatives as it might help your organization. So I guess to start, Kennedy, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what Anedot Support looks like day to day, and kind of give us a brief overview of everything.
Yeah, and thanks for having me on today. So I've been with Anedot about 3 years, heading up the support department, and a day-to-day for Anedot Support looks like fielding tons of different inquiries from our customers, from our donors, and that can be anything from setting up a new account to fixing an integration, and with our donors, just supporting them in anything they need, whether that's contacting an organization, getting a refund on a transaction that they made a mistake on, or changing some of their information. So it can be any number of things that come through.
Yeah, and how does customer support and donor support how does it differ in your day to day? Do you handle it differently, or what have you found that makes donor support different from, say, customer, or for organizations we might be serving, stakeholder support?
Yeah, absolutely. So with customers, I think it's a little more centered around what they're doing with their organization. So we try to be very specific to whether that's a ministry, a nonprofit organization, or a political organization, very specific customer support based on what they need. So that could be designing a donation page that's catered to what their donors are going to be looking at, or making sure that their account is set up with different team members that they need and what access those team members could need for the account. I think for customer support, it really gauges us towards thinking of the donor and considering the donor and what we're doing for them, but making sure that whatever their needs are, they're met and taken care of. So that could be a vast number of different items. With donor support, it's more specific because most donor requests are generally in a category or two. But for them, it's just making sure that our team is responding to them quickly, letting them know that we hear them, even if they're upset, making sure we know, we empathize with you. We understand that you're giving your treasures to support something that you believe in. So we're here to help you, and we've got you covered.
And I think one thing that we hear a lot from donors and even from customers is that we approach donor support a little bit differently. So do you want maybe talk a little bit about how we approach it differently, and how that might be helpful to customers, or might give them things they might want to do?
Yeah, I think Anedot, the start of approaching donor support differently begins with our leadership for the team. We don't measure success for our team by how many, inquiries they can close a day or how quickly they can respond to a donor. It's really taking that personal experience, being human with them, being genuine with them, and resolving their issue. So empathizing with them, understanding that if we were in their shoes, what would we want done for us? And really taking that personally. I think our team is a little bit competitive in that aspect with other people, of making sure this donor doesn't just get their issue resolved, but they have a great experience and a wonderful encounter with the person that they're dealing with.
But when you're thinking of donor support and maybe some of the struggles that donors have or have, what do you think are some of the ways that organizations might be able to make it so donors are less likely to be upset, right, or less likely to come to us? What are the most common scenarios that you're this is just so avoidable if an organization would have done this differently? Is there an example or two that you might have?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it starts with the donation pages. So the way that the account is setting up what the donors see, and really keeping them in mind and saying, is this clear? Is this easily understandable? Is this going to be miscommunicated in any way to a donor? So I think the first step is making sure that what they put out there makes sense to a donor, that it's very clear, they can understand everything that they're doing, and nothing is kind of hidden or small print. I think the second point for them is educating them that they have the ability as customers on our platform to manage donor information within their account. So it's educating them when a donor reaches out or when there's an issue that arises. Here's how you can fix that immediately. Here's how you can take action and fix it. And if there's a problem, letting us know immediately so that we can resolve that for them and prevent future issues.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think one pushback a customer might have is, what if we're in a period of high volume, right? Mm-hmm. And I think you have some good answers for that because you're an expert at handling high volume and working with a team. So what sort of advice would you give for people who push back and say, I have so much work, how do I manage this all? Like what tactics do you use to help manage those kind of high volume situations?
Yeah, we actually have a platform that we use that organizes when a donor reaches out to us into what we call tickets. And basically, that's just a document where we have their requests, the donor's contact information. And for us, that makes it really easy to keep everything from that donor in one place. So if they're reaching out multiple times, or if we need to have notes on that information, we can. And with that, it's responding quickly. So letting them know we've received your request, your inquiry, we're working on it right now, and we'll get it resolved as soon as possible. And then reaching back out and following up with that. So for periods of high volume, I think one of the things we do as a team is really set a point person and say, if this is something happened, there's a really high volume, or this account had an event and there's a lot of donors reaching out about it, setting a point person and saying, this person is going to respond to every donor immediately and let them know we're aware, we're working on it, and you're next, and we'll get to you as soon as we can, and then resolve it, and having the entire team kind of focused in an area and equipped to handle those things.
I think that you bring a good point too, on actually logging particular communications and making sure those are done in a specific way. I think that's something that I've seen a couple organizations struggle with, where they might have multiple campuses, or they might have multiple sites, and when you have 3 or 4 people from your organization all reaching out at the same time, the donor probably isn't going to react well to that, because they're going to be like, why don't you have one person reach out to me? So I think that's a really good point that you make, that it's important to make those notes and make sure that everyone is on the same page and working together, because a donor probably just sees it as one organization,
Yeah.
and they don't want to see dysfunction. They want to see your organization, able to handle things as they come in.
Absolutely. And hearing back from the same person, we've heard from our donors, and feedback makes a difference. So I'm not working with a large team and someone's just grabbing my information and responding to me and doesn't know what's going on with my specific case. If I talk to Caitlin this time, I'm going to talk to Caitlin the next time, and she's going to know exactly what's going on. She's going to have referenced my information before, and she'll know how to handle what's going on with my account. So donors really don't have to worry about, is this going to be lost in translation? Is this going to be handed off and someone else won't know what's happening with what my situation is?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know one struggle that you work with, and I'm sure many of our customers work with too, is whether it be a donor or a customer, someone on their team who isn't the most technically proficient. What things do you do to try to help somebody who isn't the most technically proficient and get them to a point where they understand?
Yeah, I think our team too, some of them aren't the most technically proficient, and I think that's a good thing in different ways, but speaking to people in normal terms. So we're not here to reinvent the wheel. We're not trying to make things more complicated than they are. So I think it's leveling with them, using terminology that's easy to understand and that's very clear, and asking clarifying questions. So if a donor or customer reaches out and we don't really know, but we kind of know what they're trying to say, we'll just ask and say, hey, is this what you meant? Is this what you were referencing? Is this something that we can fix for you? And when they say, yes, that's what I meant, that's it, we've established clear communication. And now we both know we're on the same page with each other. So I think one, it's really listening and reading with comprehension to get what they're saying, and using just layman's terms. We're not trying to make life more difficult for them. We want this to be an easy interaction.
Yeah, for sure. And one other thing too that I can think of that I know we've done a few times too is kind of the show not tell mentality. So some people are like, why don't you just call me? It's like, because I can't show my screen. And when you are dealing with something technical, usually you have to show your screen, whether it be a recording or a call. So that's another thing I know. I don't know if you want to touch on kind of that process, but I feel like that's been like a learning experience, at least for me.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have shifted more from phone calls to what we call support meetings. And what this does is allow our customers to choose a set date and time that works in their schedule, where they can say, hey, I'm going to be at my computer, I'm going to have Wi-Fi, and I'm going to be ready to do this. We can then share our screen. So we use a couple different platforms, kind of like Zoom. So we can meet with them face to face, and we can share our screen and walk them through exactly what we're doing. So if they're needing to change something on their account or make an update, or their team is just new, they have new team members that need to learn how to use Anedot, we've seen a ton of success from having them visually learn what we're doing. We'll also send video clips. So if a customer's struggling, or they have new team members, or they say, hey, we don't know how to use this specific feature and we want to, we'll send a video. We'll record it on their account so they know exactly what they're doing, and we'll send them a clip and say, hey, this is exactly start to finish how you're going to do this on your account.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think what you and the team have done there has really helped a lot of people. And hopefully our own customers can learn from that too, that sometimes it is trying to provide the support in the way that somebody's going to comprehend it and solves the problem and doesn't just be like, okay, I got this done. No, is the person feeling pretty good about where you left them at?
Yeah. And I think that's something that we look at as a team is how did the customer donor feel after this interaction? So we'll actually send out some surveys and say, hey, you recently interacted with a member of our team. How did that go? Was it easy to understand them? Did they resolve your issue? So we're not just looking for, yes, it was fixed. It was, did you have a great interaction? Did they explain it in a way that made sense to you? Did that work for you? And we've actually seen with the support meetings, really, really high ratings from those. And I think on a phone call too, it leads to extra frustration when you call someone hoping to have something solved and we can't do it over the phone. And then you're left with, okay, well, I've already taken an action and now I have to take another one. And with support meetings, that takes all of the frustration away because we'll handle it immediately.
Yeah, can you speak more to the satisfaction, like the customer satisfaction surveys? Because I think there's sometimes an opinion that, if you don't talk to them, they're not going to be happy, or if you're not doing this, then this isn't as good. Can you talk just about what you've seen on when customers are happy and when customers aren't, and kind of, what are the drivers of those?
Yeah, absolutely. So we started sending out customer satisfaction surveys. We have two different kinds. One's for customers, one's for donors. So we reach out to our customers after we've had an interaction with them for our support team and let them share their feedback, honest. If it's good, bad, whatever it is, we want to hear it. And I think a lot of the feedback has been constructive. So when someone comes back and says, hey, this feature that you released is wonderful, I wish it also did this, we're able to follow up with them and say, hey, that's actually a really great idea. We've actually put a card together with our engineering team, and they're going to look at enhancing that for you. So I think with the positive, it's nice to see what's working well so we can continue to do that. And so we can grow the team education on, hey, that thing you did, it worked and it went over really, really well. Let's keep doing that. Versus negative feedback when it comes through, really taking that, evaluating it with the team and saying, what could we have done better here? What is this a gap in our product that we need to fix? And if so, reach back out to that customer and say, what were you thinking here? What do you want this to look like? And really engaging them in positive and negative.
Yeah, for sure. Can you give me an example of a time, like let's say when you were working with an upset donor or somebody who, I guess there's always maybe somebody you can't please. Can you give me an example of that and how you handled that, or how the team member handled that if it is an example of another team member?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have an escalation process in place. So if someone does get very upset, our team knows they have support. I can call on my leadership or I can call on my other team members and they'll be there to assist me. And so personally, you can't please everyone. When you're dealing with finances, things can get tense and you just put yourself in the position of that donor immediately. So we have nothing to be defensive about. We're here to help them. So we don't take anything personally, really getting on their level and saying, what is going on? Tell me exactly what's happening. And then they usually start to relax when they're like, okay, someone's listening to me. They care about what's going on and they say they're going to fix it. And really just leveling with them and saying, I'm so sorry that that's happening, or I understand that you're frustrated here. Tell me exactly what you need to make this right. And once that comes out, once there's no defense, there's no pushback, and they're just like, we're here. What do you need? Immediately you see, okay, the frustration comes down, the level of upset comes down, and they're like, oh, they're here to help me. So I think really it is empathizing with them, letting them speak, letting them get out what they need to get out and explain the situation of what's going on. And then how can we fix this? Immediately go to a resolution of how can we make this better and how can we make sure it does not happen again?
And when you are working with, let's say, a customer on this, right? What is the typical relationship between like Anedot and customer as it relates to donor support? What's your ideal relationship? We'll put it that way. Obviously, different customers approach it in different ways. If it is a customer that says, I want to have the best donor support I can, I want Anedot to be a great partner in this, what does that relationship look like in a perfect world?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in a perfect world, it looks like we in our platform build in the ability for customers to manage their donor information. So all of the changes that an Anedot staff member could make for a donor, an account holder can make. So I think our relationship with that is really educating them, teaching them how to use the platform to the full extent so that they can be there for their donors and support them quickly. Also, how they build their pages, how they set up their account, the information that they're putting out there. Is this contact information clear for donors? Are you able to be reached via email or phone or an address that we could make available to donors as well? And really trying to bridge the gap between both of those. donors are our lifeblood. Without donors, a lot of the organizations that we support would cease to exist. So I think it's putting the value where it needs to be and understanding we're trying to make something that works for donors. Their safety, their security. If they put their information in an antidote form, it's secure, and trusting that. So I think building trust between the platform and the organization is a huge role for us.
And I think one point that also should be made is, unlike a lot of other companies, our goals are 100% aligned with your goals. We don't have monthly fees, annual fees. Like, you raising money is the only way we're successful too. So it's not always common in business, but it is with us that, you have to be successful. The donors have to be happy and, want to give again for that relationship to work. So that's another thing too that I think plays into this.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I mentioned the lifeblood of the customers' organizations, it's also ours. And we place a high value on our customers for entrusting us with their organizations and wanting to use our platform, but also in the donors for saying, we want you to trust Anedot. When you see that logo on the bottom of a donation page, we want you to go, yes, it's Anedot. I know that it's safe. I know that it's going to be put together in a way that's easy for me. And I understand that the organization is using this platform for me.
Yeah, 100%. And let's say we have customers who say, I really like what you're saying, Kennedy. I think we need to beef up our own team. Obviously you've been involved with, as we've grown our team, on who we've hired and what's worked and what's not. What advice, what would you say about our team that people should know? And then what kind of advice would you give to a customer if they were looking to bring on somebody to do donor support on their own team?
Yeah. I would say quality is better than quantity. You don't need a lot of people to do really great work. And I think it's hiring the right person. We hire a little differently, I would say, than other organizations that I've been a part of, where we look at a culture fit. We look at passion. What do you love to do? We've actually had people apply who say, I can close, thousands of customer requests a day. I can do all of this work. But we really want to know the quality of the work you're putting out. Do you passionately care about these donors and these organizations? Are you here for the long haul? You want to help. This isn't just a stepping stone. I think at Anedot, support as a career is different. It just breaks the mold from how organizations typically do support roles. Usually you think support in an organization, you think what everyone thinks. Okay, it's a call center. There's 1,000 people. They're just getting in the door so that they can get higher up. And at Anedot, this is a career. This is something that we take very seriously, and our support team partners with our engineering team, partners with our product team, making sure that everything flows perfectly. So I think with organizations who are looking to bring on support team members, one of the things to look for is personality, really over technical ability. We've had people apply with degrees and experience, and it really wasn't a great fit for them. So I think looking at a person who wants to be there, who wants to help your donors, who's very passionate about what your organization does and passionate about understanding donors are the lifeblood of that. Without those donors, you wouldn't have funding to do what you're doing. And so bringing in the right person who fits that role, who's going to care for your donors the way that you do, is way more important than a technical ability or degree.
And I think part of that too is maybe sometimes looking outside of what you would normally think, right? I mean, if somebody has worked at a medical center, right? Or has been, at the front counter of Starbucks, or has waited on tables, or has been a hairdresser, right? I mean, some of these are real examples we have, right? Yeah. So I think it's important to find people that have worked with people and they can handle stress and not get offended. And it seems like that's really important for donor support, because you do need someone who's going to go on the phone and be able to handle that and want to do that on a day-to-day basis. Because if someone's just good at, fixing technical problems, well, a lot of the donor support especially is not usually technical problems. It's usually making someone feel heard and making them feel good, and sometimes playing part therapist, which I'm sure you had some experiences with. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And even on our team, we have people with medical backgrounds. We have pastors on our team. We have people who've worked in the service industry. And I think being able to engage with a person on a human and genuine level to us is so valuable. These people, they care, they're here, they want to help, they want to hear what your story is. And I think that to us has made all the difference in what our team looks like today.
Well, we've talked about a lot of great things today, and hopefully a lot of this advice will help organizations as they're trying to do donor support and work with our team to help their donors. Is there any final advice or things that you'd like to throw out there before we close this?
Yeah, I would just, for organizations who are looking for a platform that offers donor support, I'd say even if it's not Anedot, looking for one with the here to help attitude who's got you covered, whether you need assistance with your account or whether you have donors who are going to need help along the way, really looking into that and choosing wisely to make sure that people who are giving their treasures to make your organization function well are taken care of, and that you as a customer are going to be heard, are going to be understood, and have the support that you need when you're fundraising.
Yeah, 100%. So again, this is Kennedy Williams. She's the customer support manager here at Anedot. If you need to reach Kennedy or any of our support team, you can email us at help@anedot.com. We look forward to seeing you on the next Anedot Learn.